It's official. Your favorite shows are becoming exclusive. Introducing Flicks. Beginning July 3rd, F Network will introduce an exclusive, enhanced viewing experience for passport holders with access to free content all year long. So sign up for your F Network passport today. It's fast, simple, and free.
All right, one of the things that I believe is important in sort of developing your skills and sort of moving your photographic process to the next level is to really think about if you're really comfortable shooting one type of subject matter. It doesn't hurt to go and say photograph a complete opposite on the spectrum subject matter. And in doing that, it kind of rounds you out and develops a new set of skills that you can take back to you to maybe the subject matter you really like. And I sort of started doing that with my beauty fashion. The history of sort of where I've come from is I really never had any need to photograph beauty fashion or interest. And I was a portrait shooter. But as I began to photograph sort of beauty fashion, it just took my lighting skills to a whole nother level because of the difficulty of really what, the skin, the beauty fashion kind of arena is really a difficult subject matter. So that's one of the reasons why I think I still, even today, are drawn to still shoot beauty fashion, is to make sure that I'm constantly growing in my lighting techniques. So we're going to look at a picture here of Jessica Mion. Jessica is a model. She started when she was very young, but kind of got out of it for a while, and hooked up with her on Model Mayhem and brought her in the studio. And really, from the very first time that we did some pictures, she just had this look and this sort of natural feel that was just amazing. And almost every time she gets in front of the camera, it's hard not to take a great picture of her. She has a great smile, very, I would say her skin is kind of light and her hair is, obviously very blonde. But one of the things I discovered in shooting athletes, and a lot of them were African-American athletes with that dark skin, I would try to make the skin darker. With Jessica, it was the first time that I sort of brought in a model that had kind of light skin, a light look, and I took and went the opposite direction in my post, in making her skin even a little bit lighter, a little more of a porcelain feel. And so she was really a great subject to do that with. So you might try that when you look and find someone that's got really light skin. It's a great lesson, a great way of sort of rounding out your skills as a photographer. So talk about the beauty lighting here that we've got. It's going to be three light source, same as kind of the athletic approach that I've done with the edgier feel. But what I'm doing is I going back to that rule that I've sort of built the foundation on, is that the larger the source in relationship to your subject, the softer the light. Now I'm going to say that probably a lot when I teach a workshop. I probably say it 200 times. I really want to pound that in, that once you get that understanding, then it really makes lighting a lot easier, and knowing that if you want a softer look, just get bigger modifiers, bring them in tight, and the look gets softer and softer. So typically with a beauty sort of skin approach, you want to soften the skin and soften the light. So here I've got two large of the Westcott boxes in the back, just like I've done on some of my edgier stuff, but they're really in close. In fact, they're probably going to be about 1.5 feet, 2 feet from the subject. And then I have an option of going with, and we're going to try both, is with a beauty dish and a 5-foot octo. And we'll show you the difference between the two of those. And each one has a little bit different way of sort of treating the skin and that front part of the face. And so the key to this lighting is this, that light, as it comes around, it begins to taper and feather into maybe a little bit darker values. And I've done that with my sports stuff, but with the beauty, I want that tapering to go very subtle. I don't want a whole lot of difference between the value of the skin here versus the value of the skin here. But I do want the value of the skin here to be a little lighter, because that's what builds depth. And if we go back to remembering how depth gives a sense of something that's a little bit more real, you can almost touch it. So the more depth you have, generally speaking, the little more sort of realistic feel that you're going to have in the end result. All right, what we're going to do right now is show you the sort of a real beauty sort of lighting approach. And if you were to do maybe a cosmetic shoot where you really concentrate on the skin, this is a great technique. And we have, of course, our beautiful model, Jessica. And she's actually got a great face for a beauty subject. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with showing you, I've got my 3 lights, okay? So I've got my large Westcott banks in the back, and they're coming across the sides and catching a little bit of the cheeks on the sides. The overhead light, again, is a round modifier. This is the 22-inch beauty dish. I've got a diffusion sock on here. And we talked about the round modifier gives a really beautiful catch light in the eyes. So you could use a rectangular or a square modifier here. Again, the bigger the source in relationship to your subject, the softer the light. But I think for general, sort of the rule of thumb is try to use a circular modifier as your overhead light. And I think you're going to be in good shape if you do that. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to shoot with this scenario, and then I'm also going to go to the 5-foot Westcott Octobox, which is going to be a little bit softer. Again, in our previous session, we did the beauty dish by itself, and one of the beautiful things about that is it really allows you to hollow the cheeks a little bit. And so I'm going to show you the difference between this beauty dish in this same scenario, and we're going to just switch out the one modifier, which is the 5-footer. Now I have a white sweep, and with the beauty dish here, it's going to cast some light onto the background, but it really makes that white background gray. So depending on what I want for a final look, I can take this whole set and move it away from the background to get a darker gray, or toward the background to get a lighter gray. So at any rate, so I can move forward or backwards to get the value I want. The minute I put my 5-foot Octobox on, it's going to be a bigger source and cast a lot more light on the background, so it's going to lighten up the value of the background. So you'll notice that right away. Now, if I wanted to get the same gray value, I would have to move the whole set away from the background with that. I don't think we're going to do that today. But anyway, that gives you an idea how you can change the value of your background. I love gray, a light gray background. It really is a nice, pleasing, sort of neutral background for beauty shots. Now, the one thing that I've noticed over the years is that the hardest color or value on a background to reproduce without wrinkles is gray. And so one of the things that I've done in the past too is I have a gray wall, or I paint a white wall, there's no wrinkles, and I'll use the white wall as my background. And so just to keep in mind that gray is a really hard color to get without wobbles and wrinkles and whatever imperfections. So that might be something you'll run into. So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna have Jessica here with a pretty tight shot. I have a bounce here, a couple apple boxes, and this is just a piece of foam core that's got black on one side and white on the other. And this is gonna bounce light up into her chin and her face, eyes, and everything. So it really adds a nice, pleasing sort of fill underneath. I've seen different photographers use aluminum foil. Some take mirrors and bounce mirrors. So there's a lot of little things you can do with sort of, bouncing light into her face. What I'm going to do is, because I have black, and there's an apple box here, I'm going to flip it to the black side and show you what it looks like without a bounce, and then I'll use the white showing with the bounce. So let's start with the bounce. And I've taken a couple shots just to get my lights close to what I want. And my goal is to have the background edge lights come around and cast a greater value of tones than the overhead light. But I want this overhead light to be really very close to it. It's very subtle transition. And so by powering this up and down, I'm going to get that transition. So let's start by going straight on here, really tight crop. I'm going to fire one off here. Okay, so looking at Jessica right now, I can see that there's that highlights on the side of the cheeks, and then it kind of darkens just a little bit as the curve on her face starts to happen, and then where her right below her eyes, there's a little bit more value of light, and I think the fill looks good. So what we're going to do is I'm going to power up. So I'm at F8 at 1/200th of a second. That's my flash sync. So let's power up. And what I do is I pretty much never change the f-stop on my camera. I'm always either powering up the lights or powering down the lights to change the output or the value. Never by working with an f-stop. And the reason why I do that is, number one, I want my optics to be keep them at a couple stops from wide open. And in this situation, with this lens, probably around f7.1 is going to be the sharpest aperture for this camera and lens combination here. I happen to be at f8. I kind of like the f8 f-stop also. So let's do this. We're going to power this up. Let's go about a half stop. And I'm just going to discharge it. Whoops, that's not the button. Discharge it here so that I have a clean power dump. Here we go. Ready? Okay, so now you're going to see with the skin right in the middle between both on her nose is just increased in value. It actually smooths it out a little bit more. And that is absolutely beautiful. So we're going to go the opposite direction. We're going to go back past what I did when I started and go a half a stop below that. So we're going to actually show you a full stop range. So here we go again. Ready? Now you're going to see that it's even darker in here. Again, and I've said this many times, that a lot of this depends on what you like as an artist and what sort of the direction you're trying to end up in. And you may have a client standing over you, if it's a cosmetic client, or if you're doing a senior portrait and your subject is very particular and may ask you to and have a certain look that they're looking for. So let's go back. I'm going to go back to what I started with, and I'm going to show you the difference between the fill, no fill. So we're going to take this out and flip it so it's just black. So there's no bounce. So let's put you right in there, and here we go. So that's no fill, and you can immediately see that every face has sort of wobbles of, I don't want to call them imperfections, but every face is not perfectly smooth like a mannequin. So without the fill, you can immediately see that those little imperfections show up. What I do in Photoshop is, through dodging and burning, I usually go to a soft brush that is about 3% on a medium, and I will dodge and burn out those little wobbles. And that's part of the retouching techniques that I use. But here, if I take, let's do one more with it flipped on the white and show you completely side by side here what it looks like with the fill. Okay, so this is with the fill. And it really does clean it up. It's pretty nice. So I want to take one more. I'm going to back up just a little bit. 1, 2, 3. Oh, beautiful. It's hard to not get a good picture of Jessica. Gorgeous. Do another straight on one here so you backed up a little bit right there. Beautiful. And now let me get your whole head in there, your whole top of your head, because that was cropped. Right there. Beautiful. Gorgeous. And right here. So very nice, clean. Let's try one, moving it up a half stop. Okay, so I'm increasing the value of the overhead. And it cleans the skin up even more. Now drop your chin. Do that same thing, but drop your chin just a little bit. Drop it down right there. Focus. All right, gorgeous. All right, so now we're gonna put on the 5-foot Octo and show you what that looks like. All right, so now we have our 5-foot Westcott Octo. Still have the 2 large Westcott banks with grids. One of the things that people ask me a lot is why don't I use modeling lights? And really, there's 2 reasons. One is obviously you've got a light in there that's going to get pretty hot, and I have had the modeling lights either damage the modifier, or it can warp a little bit on the flash head. So that's one reason. But really the main reason why I don't use a modeling lights is because I don't want to be influenced by these lights. I want to have all my evaluation done on the back of the monitor. This is why we are in one of the greatest ages of photography, is because I can instantly prove what the camera is actually capturing immediately. And so I want that to be my evaluation. And the reason why I don't use a flash meter is because with a flash meter, I can take and get a reading of how much power is coming out of my light sources, but it doesn't tell me what I want as an artist. A technical instrument can never make a creative decision. And so I don't use a flash meter, I don't use modeling lights, I don't use the histogram. The histogram has its purpose, but for me as an artist, it really is it doesn't give me the information I need. And I don't work in ratios. I want to know what's happening on the back of the monitor. So we've just moved this light into position. It's going to be a lot softer. And so let's take a look at that. All right, here we go. So you can automatically see it's a lot softer. I'm going to do this, Jessica. Let's go back to where you were from the very beginning, so we can kind of compare. I'm going to move in tight. Let's try to compare the Beauty Edition. It's ready, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to be a broader, softer source as my overhead. Now let's take and let's power it down a half stop so you can see what that looks like. Right there. All right, ready, 1, 2, 3. So we have a little bit more detail in shadows right between the eyes, or below the eyes, between the nose. So let's go a stop over, or a half a stop over, so another stop from here. Okay, let's show you what that looks like. Whoop, my autofocus is right in the eye. Now go straight on, bring your chin straight right there, perfect. 1, 2, 3, okay. So now it's even probably more, a little bit overexposed, but it really cleans up the skin. So let's also go back to normal, what I consider normal. We'll shoot 1 and we'll pull the fill card out. Ready, 1, 2, 3, okay. And then we'll flip this. And then we'll shoot 1 more. Ready, 1, 2, 3. So I'll give you an example. Oh my gosh. So that really did change the overall feel. And again, that little bounce changes everything. So let's do this, Jessica. Let's flip this back. Let's shoot a couple. I'm going to back up just a little bit, and then we're done. So let's go. I'm going to really try to get you right there. Oh. Perfect. Good job. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, there you have it. Really, it's just about mixing your modifiers up to get the look that you want. And so the only way you ultimately are going to know what to do is by experimenting. So that's the key to the whole thing. That's why I do probably 50 self-assignments a year, including all the commercial work I do, because I want to know what these lights are doing and exactly how they work in terms of putting the subject in front of them. So that's what I encourage you to do. Get out, test, and do as many trade out self-assignments as you can, and that's how you grow. All right, we want to give you guys an assignment so that you can sort of do a practice. And I guess the best way for me to sort of maybe encourage you is to you may have only an umbrella as an overhead option. Take that umbrella, do the same thing I'm doing here, and you may have 3 umbrellas. And you can use umbrellas as your background light. They throw light around a lot further. It's a little bit harder to control umbrellas. These boxes have the grids and it kind of corrals in the light. But take what you have and don't be intimidated that you have to have exactly what I have here. You saw what I did with the beauty dish, with a 5-footer. We had that Apollo umbrella that you shoot into and bounces around. It's sort of in between the size of beauty dish and this. And if you get a chance to kind of mix up your modifiers, you're going to find somewhere that you get something you really like.
Special thanks to FJ Westcott for keeping this episode lit up. Like the music? Special thanks to Triple Scoop Music. Frame Network giveaways are brought to you by B&H. Head to giveaways.framenetwork.com for your chance to win. Find out more about the equipment used in this episode on framenetwork.com.